Hey everybody, I'm doing the second video for chapter 1, and so we're going to talk about some basic life functions that are necessary in all living things. Then we're going to talk about specific things that humans need. So all living things have to be able to maintain boundaries. Our cells have a plasma membrane that helps to maintain the external or extracellular environment from the internal or intracellular environment. That's where this cute little cartoon picture came from. You may enter young nutrient, and the nutrient is coming through, and there's the plasma membrane talking. Other things that we have to be able to, that we need, that are necessary for life, are movement of materials inside the body as well as movement of the body as a whole. So when I say that, I mean just being able to move our body, being able to increase the size of our thoracic cavity so that we can breathe. And then movement of materials inside the body, moving nutrients through our body to our specific or cells and organs, and getting rid of the waste products is necessary. We need to be able to sense changes in the environment, so we have to be responsive. And so in this case, this girl is very responsive to the heat. She's very hot, and her body is responding by sweating. So when our internal body, the internal environment gets too hot, that heat moves into our blood and is released to the surface of our skin. And it's through our skin that we're going to respond to the heat. Sweat glands in our skin respond to that change in temperature at the surface of the skin and start secreting sweat. And as the sweat evaporates, it takes with it the temperature, the heat from the surface of our skin, which is what cools us off. We need to be able to break down foods and absorb nutrients. So here, I just found a cute picture that I thought was adorable of little kids eating pizza, and everybody likes pizza in general. So we do this by taking in nutrients. For humans, we take food into our mouth, and then we absorb the nutrients in our intestines, through our intestines. Those nutrients then go to our blood and are then transported to the proper areas that we need them. We have to maintain metabolism. So we have to be able to maintain our metabolism. Metabolism in a nutshell is just all the chemical reactions within our body. And they're broken into two groups of processes. So one of those groups breaks down molecules into smaller ones. That's actually called catabolism. And then the other is building up large molecules from smaller ones, and that's anabolism. And so our metabolism helps us in maintaining health of the body because we're producing energy, we're breaking things down, we're building new things up, and this is all regulated by different hormones in our body. So here's an example of building something up. I always like to use like baking. So when you're building something up, you take all kinds of small subunits. In this case, I'm taking all the subunits that you might need to make a cake. And then I mix them together. I put them into the oven. I use a little bit of energy from the oven, and I make a cake. So that's an anabolic or a building up process. The term anabolism means small molecules join together to form larger ones, and it requires energy. And so there's that same picture, okay? So the opposite of this is then catabolism. Large molecules break down into smaller ones, releasing energy. Oh, whoa, wait. There we go. Sorry, that was a weird picture. All right, so here's that cake. And if we eat the cake, we break down all the parts of this cake into smaller subunits, and that releases energy. That is a catabolic reaction. But both are metabolic reactions. And then we have to be able to get rid of waste products. Cute little picture again. We eliminate waste through sweating, through feces, through urination. Even we sometimes can get rid of certain waste products through breathing. So anything that gets materials out, like carbon dioxide, leaves our body through exhalation. So when you think of waste, it's not always this, baby diaper poop stuff. There's a lot of different types of waste, and we do get rid of waste products. If we don't get rid of these wastes, then those wastes will build up in our body, and we will end up being very, very toxic, and we will get ill. All living things need to be able to reproduce, and we need to grow. So when you talk about reproduction, there's two types of reproduction. We have reproduction of cells. So think about your skin, just the top layer, what you look at, the skin. How often have you ever hurt your skin, cut or had an abrasion on the skin, skinned your knee? That would be an example, where you lose layers of tissue from the skin and you bleed, right? This happens, and then new skin develops. That new skin develops through a process called growth and repair. So new cells replace old cells. This is constantly happening. In our bones, we're constantly producing new bones. The bones that you have today are not the bones you were born with. We break down old bone and we produce new bone, healthier bone. Opposite that, we also have reproduction where we produce sex cells. Females produce eggs, males produce sperm, and those come together forming a new organism called a zygote that will undergo multiple mitotic divisions, so multiply in number of cells, and then specialize. Those cells will start to specialize into different structures, eventually forming a new organism. So growth is increasing cell size, which then also increases body size. So we are not the same size as we were when we were first born. There's another example. Our hormones are a major player in our growth and reproduction. So I told you that we talk about things all living things need, and I'm going to talk about specific to humans. So humans need specific types of nutrients so that we can produce the energy that we need so that we can then metabolize properly. So the nutrients we need are carbohydrates, proteins, fats. We need vitamins and minerals. So minerals are like your folic acid, zinc, stuff like that. Vitamins include like vitamin B, vitamin D, stuff like that. And we can produce some of the materials through sunlight and other things, but a lot of these we have to take in, and we do that when we eat or drink. Humans also need oxygen. So without oxygen, in a very short period of time, we would die. So we need oxygen to produce ATP energy, which is the energy all of our cells use for metabolism, and we produce energy continuously. We use energy from the moment we are formed until we die. We're using energy. We gain our oxygen when we are in the uterus through mom's blood. But once we are born, then we gain our oxygen through our own respiratory system. So we have to breathe. Once you stop breathing, then you're not going to have the energy to sustain life. So oxygen is a requirement. Atmospheric pressure. We have to have a certain amount of pressure to allow us to exchange gases. So atmospheric pressure at sea level, which is where we live, is about 760 millimeters of mercury. Our lungs and our thoracic cavity have a slightly different pressure. So what that allows is when atmospheric pressure decreases in our thoracic cavity, air can move in. When we have more pressure in our thoracic cavity than we do in the atmosphere, air moves out, and that allows us to breathe. So when we decrease pressure, like when we go up in altitude, it's harder to breathe. We usually say that air is thinner. It's because there's less pressure, so it's harder to get the air in. If you increase pressure, that is typically associated with decreasing altitude, going underwater. That causes more pressure, and that can cause other problems like nitrogen, which is the most common element in the air, to diffuse across and into our blood. And so you've probably heard of altitude sickness, where you have too little pressure and it causes you to get lightheaded. You can end up going to the hospital for this. You can also get the bends if you go underwater and you come up too fast. Nitrogen will start to bubble out of your out of the blood and into your lungs. And what it causes is you can actually have cells break open and like burst, blood vessels burst. It can cause bruising, but it can also cause death if you don't treat it quickly. We need water. So we are between 60 and 80% water. Water is the most abundant chemical in the body. And it's where all of our metabolic activities occurs, in water. We have to maintain a body temperature of about 37 degrees Celsius. Any movement below that temperature is going to slow chemical reactions, and if it's above, it could actually cause proteins that help to maintain the body to start to break down. So this is the optimum temperature right here. And so at this point, you should be able to tell me functions necessary for life and survival needs of humans. So I'm going to stop here. I know this is a shorter video, but we're going to get into the language of anatomy, and I kind of want to have that as its own video. So I'll stop here, and we'll get into the third section, or the third video, in a little bit. Bye.